Hello, welcome to Data Focused Python, course, what is it, 95888 in Mini 3 or Mini 4 of 2022. My name is John Ostlund, and I will be your professor for this course. I'd like to walk through the syllabus, and I'm going to appear to turn my head away from the camera since my system has multiple screens, so that I can walk through the syllabus with you. Okay, so this syllabus is for section C3 of Data Focused Python. There's also a section D3 in Mini 3, and a section, I believe, A4 in Mini 4. And the course is going to be the same for all of those different sections. For the C3 section, we'll be meeting in room Hamburg Hall 1202 each Tuesday and Thursday between 10:10 and 11:30. Now, section D3 does not have a specific meeting time or place. Many of the students in section D3 are remote in such places as Washington, D.C. or elsewhere. So section D3 will be strictly online. I want to point out that for the first 2 weeks of the course, because of COVID Omicron variant, we will not have any live lectures, and all of the lectures will be delivered by pre-recorded videos that I will post on YouTube. This way you can watch them at your own convenience, and of course, for section D3, there won't be any physical classroom to go to anyway. Now, I personally have not found Zoom to be a very effective way of conducting an interactive technological course, so I'm not going to attempt to deliver a live interactive lecture on Zoom for these first 2 weeks while we're not in class. I do plan to return to doing live lectures for section C3 in February, but of course COVID is an ever-evolving problem, and so this also may be delayed a little bit. To be not to be very politically correct about this, I am old and fat and have a history of bronchitis and pneumonia, so I'm not extremely eager to get even a mild case of COVID, even though I am doubly shot and boosted. I will always post lecture videos on YouTube, even if I am otherwise conducting live lectures. And in fact, you should consider the online lectures to be the official lectures. It may be the case, either because I'm babbling too much or because people have lots of questions, that a live lecture may run a little bit long and there may be certain material that I'm unable to get to. In that case, I will refer you to look at the pre-recorded YouTube videos for any material I was unable to get to. Now, typically you shouldn't expect to have to look at another, more than 10 minutes or 15 minutes of material on YouTube. I do want to be clear that because I am posting everything on YouTube, and because, of course, COVID-19 is out there, and you have every right to be nervous about that, I do not require attendance in lecture. So you're welcome to come to physical lectures, those of you that are in section C3, and ask me questions and participate and see me dancing around and waving my arms. But you're never required to physically come to the lecture. All of the information that you need will be on YouTube. Okay, so as I said, I'm this guy, John Ostland, and feel free to contact me either at my Andrew email address or at my personal email address. Notice that my Andrew email is jostland, whereas my personal email is jkostland at gmail.com. I try to be available during class or during periods when I'm teaching more or less constantly. So you can assume that I'll be around between 10 in the morning and 9 in the evening all the time. Okay? When I'm teaching, and that's pretty much all I'm doing. You should always feel free to shoot me an email, Friday evenings, anytime Saturday or Sunday. I will not promise to respond, immediately, especially if you contact me after 9 p.m. But I will generally try to respond to you within a couple of hours, and sometimes even quicker than that, during this period from 10 a.m. to 9 p.m. I don't expect to be doing any traveling, at least in Mini 3, but if I do, that will also hamper my ability to respond to you quickly. I will have office hours for Data Focused Python every Sunday, and I'll have 2 sessions of office hours every Sunday. So hopefully one or the other of those sessions, or both, will be convenient for you, and I will post the Zoom links. I'm available from 10 a.m. until noon on Sunday, and again from 8 p.m. until 10 p.m. every Sunday. And so I hope that will give you plenty of time to meet with me and ask me any questions that you have. I do have 2 teaching assistants for each section. My 2 teaching assistants for the C3 section are these 2 capable and experienced folks. I also have capable and experienced folks for the D3 section, and so if you're in the D3 section, you'll find their names and email addresses in that syllabus. Mainly what I ask my TAs to do is to help me with grading homework assignments, quizzes, and certain parts of the final project. You should also feel free to reach out to them by email if you have questions about material. But you should also feel free to just reach out to me directly by email if you have questions about anything. The TAs may choose to hold office hours themselves, probably by Zoom, but I don't require them to do that, so they may not do that. Okay, now the rest of the syllabus here pretty much never changes. Well, there have been a couple of updates. This spring. So, being lazy, from this point on, I'm going to just use the recording of the syllabus that I made last fall. I do want to point out 2 changes relative to the syllabus from last fall. There has been a new release of Anaconda 2021.11, using Python 3.9. 2021.11 means that this version of Anaconda was made available in November of the year just passed. And as I said, this is using Python 3.9, so the website for the documentation I've updated. It's docs.python.org 3.9. But in terms of what we need to know about Python for this course, there isn't any significant difference between Python 3.8 and Python 3.9. For example, for that matter, there isn't really that much difference between Python. Pardon me, tripping over my tongue here. There isn't really that much difference between 3.9 and 3.7. The big shift in Python 3 was really from 3.5 to 3.7. Okay, so I'm going to revert to my previous video to get you through the rest of this syllabus. And I look forward to virtually seeing you in the class, or physically seeing you once I get back to doing live lectures for those of you in section C3. The prerequisite for this course is prior computer programming training or experience. We don't expect that you are a programming expert, but that you have had academic training at least in some languages such as Java or C++, or Objective-C is pretty much not used nowadays, or C# from Microsoft, or the C language, or something of that kind. In other words, we assume that you are familiar with what the idea of an interpreter is, what the idea of a compiler is, what the idea of an integrated development environment is, that you are familiar with concepts such as built-in data types, collections of data, decisions, loops, functions. We assume that you're familiar with these kinds of ideas, and our goal in this course is to cram as much Python 3.8 knowledge into you as we possibly can in a little over 6.5 weeks. We will have a textbook that I will ask you to do some exercises in, or actually what I'll ask you to do is to read through the textbook and try out various examples that are shown in the textbook. This is Python for Data Analysis, written by a fellow named Wes McKinney, who is the guru of the pandas, so-called module in Python. There are 2 editions of this book. You want to make sure that you're looking at the 2nd edition, which was published in 2017. The 1st edition you really should consider that obsolete. This book is available for free through the Carnegie Mellon University Library. And in fact, I am going to briefly change gears so that we can locate that book and I can show you how to access it online. Okay, so I'll fire up another browser and I'm just going to go to, or I'm going to search for Carnegie Mellon University Library, and I already did that this morning, so Google remembers that I did that. Alrighty, here we go. CMU Libraries, I'll click that. And I want to search for Python for Data Analysis. I'm going to expand the font size here a bit. Okay, so you type Python for Data Analysis in the search window and hit the search button. Or actually, I guess you have to press the Enter key. And chug, chug. Chug, chug. Here we go. And you will be told that there are multiple versions of this thing available. If you scroll down, all right, now there's this thing called migrating to R, or migrating from R to Python for data. That's not what we want. What we want is Python for Data Analysis by Wes McKinney. Now, I believe the correct copyright date for that is 2017, but this says 2018. In any case, this is the correct one. We don't want the older one. We'll click on that. And now this is puzzling. It does not say 2nd edition in the title anywhere. Okay, it does say available online, so let's check availability online. And O'Reilly Online Learning, Carnegie Mellon does have a license for this. So we are asked to select your institution. Now, Carnegie Mellon doesn't show up in this list of institutions. So what we do is to choose not listed, click here, and just type in your email address. So my email address for your Andrew email address, my email address is jostland@andrew.cmu.edu. Click Let's Go, and chug, chug, chug. And here we are. Okay, now it jumps you into the preface. Maybe it jumps me into the preface because I was looking at this book before. Let's go to the, I'm going to back up to, I'm going to just keep backing up, and there we go. So now we're back at the cover, and this is indeed Python for Data Analysis by Wes McKinney, 2nd edition. And if I click forward, I will see that, okay, this thing is copyrighted 2018, but apparently was published in October of 2017. So maybe there was an updated printing. This thing over here that looks like 3 bullet and dash symbols, sort of in the upper right corner, will enable you to access the table of contents. So I'm going to go to the table of contents, and here we go. So preface, new for the 2nd edition, conventions used in the book, blah, 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 blah. And here we have Chapter 1, Part 1, Python Language Basics, Chapter 2, Part 1, Chapter 2, Part 2. Okay, so you see how you can access the various parts of the book from this table of contents. There's also an index, and the index is probably way at the end, so let's scroll all the way down. Here is the index, and here we are. So this is an even more detailed interface if you want to access specific topics. All right, I'm going to go back to I'm going to just go back to the cover. All right, so that's how you access this Python for Data Analysis 2nd edition book. Make sure that you're accessing the 2nd edition and not the older 1st edition. All right, and it will remember where you are. So if you close your browser and then get back in and re-access the book, it will pick you up from whatever point you were at. All right, so I'm going to close the browser and close the Carnegie Mellon University Library search browser. And here we are back at the syllabus. Okie doke. There's also a couple of optional books that I've listed here. There's a book called Automate the Boring Stuff with Python, which is interesting. It's a more beginner kind of book. That one, if you search for it, it is available for free online. There's an academically oriented book called Starting Out with Python 5th edition, which is also an introductory level book. It's very widely used in academia. It is unfortunately expensive. I think it'll cost you $120 or possibly more, so you probably don't want that one. Okay. Now, in terms of software, the software that I'm going to ask you to install is called Anaconda 2021.05. And Anaconda is an entire package of software that includes Python 3.8, which is not the most recent version of Python, but it is very recent. And it also includes a number of important and widely used modules that we'll be using in this class and that you might want to use optionally for your so-called group project that I'll talk about in just a moment. I have a separate video that I've posted that talks about how to install Anaconda 2021.05. You do that from this website, anaconda.com/download. So after you've finished listening to me babble about the syllabus, you can take a look at that video. That will be posted in my first announcement. That video will be posted in my first announcement just underneath this welcome/syllabus video. All right, now what about grades? Okay, well, the grade that you will receive is going to consist of 3 components. First of all, there will be homework assignments due each week, and combined, the homework assignments are going to be worth 20% of your grade. There will also, as I said earlier, be quizzes near the beginnings of weeks 2, 4, and 6, and those 3 quizzes will be worth a combined 35% of your grade. Roughly speaking, each quiz is worth 12% of your grade. Then there's going to be a group project that you are going to work on together with either 3 or 4 other people. And in the second and third weeks, you will need to submit some draft deliverables that describe to me what you plan to do for your project. And then during the last week of the course, you will need to submit your final deliverables. Now, the deliverables are going to consist of a PowerPoint presentation describing a product, namely a Python program that you and your group plan to develop, or have developed at least to an appropriate extent for 3 to 6 weeks worth of work. So a PowerPoint presentation, you're going to need to deliver the source code for your project, as well as a README file that tells us how to install and run your application, and finally a presentation of how to use your product in the guise of a pitch to some investors to try to get money from investors to help you bring your product to market. Okay, and I'll have a lot more details about that a little bit later. Now, I do want to say that normally we try to do these project presentations during the very last session, during the very last lecture session of the course. However, because of the relative decline of COVID-19, we are now dealing with this Delta variant, but people are by and large back at school, not just universities, but back at school in person generally. And there is a lot of pent-up demand for this class compared with last year. So normally we have 40 to 45 people in each section of the class, and in that way we can usually have 12 to 15 groups give 10 or 12 minute presentations at the end. But this fall, we have 60 or more students in each section, and it's simply not possible for us to have, for us to ensure time for 15 in-person presentations if we have 4 people per group. So what I'm going to ask you to do for this course is you and your other group members will need to record a presentation on video, rather like what I'm doing now, although hopefully better structured and more interesting than what I'm doing now.
Okay, and then you will post that recorded presentation video as part of your final deliverables. Okay, so homeworks will be graded, quizzes will be graded, the draft deliverables and final deliverables will be graded. Here are the grades that Heinz College associates with various QPA or GPA points. And it's these grades that you get on each of these things that will determine your course grade. So don't get overly obsessed with the points that you get on homework assignments or the points that you get on quizzes or the points that you get on group project deliverables, because quizzes in particular I grade on a curve. It's possible that a quiz will turn out to be very difficult, and so the top score in the class might be only, let's say, 80% correct. Well, if the top score in the class on a given quiz is only 80%, that will be an A+ for that quiz, all right? And I will then use a curve to assign other grades to lower scores. So when we're all done, and you'll see what grades you have for your homeworks and what grades you have for your quizzes and what grades you have for your group project deliverables, I will then compute your course grade like so. You will get 20% for your, well, let me scoot this up a little bit. Your homework will be worth 20%. Your biweekly quizzes will be worth 35%. Your draft deliverables will be worth 10%, and your final deliverables worth 35%. So let's suppose that you got an A on all your homework, which is common. So 20% of your overall QPA for the class would be 4 times 0.2. Then let's suppose that you got an A and an A+ and a B+ on your 3 quizzes. Okay, so those scores over 3 times 35% would be the contribution of those grades for your quiz. And then let's suppose that you get an A on your draft deliverables and an A- on your final deliverables. All right, we would give 10% for the draft deliverables, 35% for the final deliverables, grind that through a calculator, and we get 3.84483. Now, I use rounding rather than truncating when I convert these point averages to letter grades. So since 3.8483 is closer to 4 than, okay, so it's closer to 4, which is an A, rather than closer to 3.67, which is an A-. So if this was the point total that you got from this computation, you would get a letter grade of A for the class. All right? Now, I do not give any A+ on homework assignments or on draft deliverables. Okay? So homework assignments and draft deliverables, pretty much everybody gets an A on all of that stuff. To distinguish yourself and try to get an A+ for the course, you have to get A+ in your quizzes or in your final deliverables or both. All right? So your QPA to get an A+ has to be strictly greater than 4. That is, this number that we computed here, based on these percentages of grades for these 4 components, has to be strictly greater than 4 in order to get an A+ for the course. Okay, I think a lot of this other stuff you can read for yourselves. Okay, there will be 5 homework assignments. There will be homework due in week 2, week 3, week 4, week 5, and week 6. There won't be a week 7. We won't be doing live group project presentations. You will have to as I said, do those with your group as video presentations and post those on YouTube or some other video service that I can see. And we will have quizzes in week 2 and week 4 and week 6. Okay, so I think you can read all the rest of the stuff. If you do have any questions about anything in the syllabus, please do send me an email, and I will try to respond to you as quickly as I can. Okay, so that is the overview of the syllabus. As I said, welcome to the course. I hope to virtually meet as many of you as possible in office hours or other Zoom communications. And good luck in the class. The next thing you should do is to take a look at how to install Anaconda with Python 3.8. Take care.